Ladies and gentlemen, here we are. Not Premier League predictions this time, Champions League group stage predictions. Now, James and I both work full time jobs. We have social lives, we have hobbies, we have all sorts of other things going on. So if you think we're going to predict every single match day in the Champions League, you're crazy. You have another thing coming. But we are going to give you kind of a rough gauge on how the group stages might look. So, as you can see on the screen that we're kind of sharing here, you've got all the teams in alphabetical order on the left, my name, James's name, first, second, third, and fourth. And what we're going to do is go group by group and just reveal who James and I think will be making it out of the group stages. Now, we've both been away, so we're kind of cheating a little bit. We've seen a couple of the fixtures, so we know one or two results. But James, I'll be honest, after the first match day, I don't know if that would change our group positions much here. Do you think?
Some of it, to me, I'd look at it and realize like in some groups, there's not too many clear out and out like when you know what it's like before when you had your Juventus, Bayern Munich. It was just everyone was clear cut. This
Right.
one is like Europe is to me so weak right now. That's to me that's the one thing I'm gonna say. How weak Europe is so glaring. It's crazy.
Well, I feel like I haven't massively cared about the group stage games in the Champions League for a little while, to be honest with you. I like the knockouts. And James, I'm not going to lie to you, there are certain Europa League fixtures that come up where teams have just fallen short of certain competitions, or maybe they didn't do that well in the league prior. Some Europa League games, as we get to knockouts, look better than some of the Champions League games, which is kind of insane. But anyway, without any further ado, Group A, we've James and I have just watched that kind of crazy Manchester United game where I think it was 4-3 Bayern Munich. But I think realistically, Bayern Munich seemed to be roughly in control for most of the fixture. Let's see how James and I have gone here. James, across the board, I mean, let's be perfectly honest. We've both got the two teams that we think are going through here: Bayern Munich, Manchester United, Copenhagen, Galatasaray. Obviously, we've got them kind of flip flopped there. I'm just going on the fact that I feel like, generally speaking, Turkish football seems to be on a little bit of a decline, whereas some of these leagues in like Northern and Central Europe seem to be kind of increasing in terms of their value of football teams and quality of football teams. Obviously, we saw the 2-2 draw. James, is this as simple as Bayern Munich are better than Manchester United, but Manchester United are better than Copenhagen and Galatasaray?
Simple. I think Bayern Munich are probably going to go for the traditional 6 for 6 where they win all. I think the last 3 years, Jack, they won all six of the group stage games. And again, I can see that continuing again. Granted, it wasn't great against Manchester United, but they're the best. United to me are the second best. Looking at what Copenhagen and Galatasaray, as you can see, both teams are kind of on the. It's a kind of you kind of pick like which one. You're not sure what Galatasaray is going to do because it's their first time in the Champions League in many years, but at least you know what Manchester United is capable of. So that's why I just put them just ahead of Galatasaray. So yeah, United, Bayern Munich to me are easy. Two teams going through.
Yeah, pretty straightforward. And again, that goal for Rasmus Højlund, good. I thought the penalty for Christian Eriksen that I saw on the Champions League goal show on TNT, I didn't think that was a penalty. I think that was kind of harsh. So positives to take from Manchester United. But again, Bayern Munich are so much better than these two other teams in the group. And that's probably 4 wins at least, which is definitely guarantees them going through. Okay, James, moving on to your boys, moving on to Arsenal. Obviously, a pretty emphatic win against PSV Eindhoven. How did you feel Arsenal performed?
Wait, Jack, you have Valencia. So, I mean, are you have Sevilla going at okay, okay. Well, Arsenal just Champions League football. We're back, baby. Again, a team we played in the Europa League last season. A lot of these teams have been in the Europa League, so it wasn't like we haven't seen a lot of these teams. To be fair, when you look at the group, it does feel like a European. It does feel like a Europa League type group. To me,
Right.
Arsenal are by far head and shoulders the best to me. Um, to me in this group, and I like what I'm expecting is 4 wins, one, 3 home wins, one away win, one away draw, and the loss. I'll take that and finishing top of the table is what I'm looking at.
Yeah, look, James, I've got Sevilla going through. You've got Lens going through. Those are kind of our two different things, and I have Sevilla finishing top on this one. I do just think that there might be a little bit of a dominance put on how Arsenal want to do in the Premier League as opposed to the Champions League. And I think as we get into the latter stages of these match days, some of these matchups, both the Sevilla legs, and again, also I know that obviously Arsenal decimated PSV Eindhoven, but Lens are no slouches as well. And PSV in Holland might just be tricky, and Arsenal might think, oh, maybe we can play Fabio Vieira, Emil Smith Rowe, maybe we can do some rotating and maybe they'll just get caught out. And I just think Sevilla might hold. Obviously, I did these predictions prior to tonight's game, and I think if I'd have known that Sevilla weren't going to just outright win, I might have changed that a little bit. But I'm going to say that this is what I've done from the beginning. I just think Sevilla have the pedigree to go through in these European competitions.
Lens are one that, to me, it's just a bit of a shock. You're not sure what you're going to get from them, but Sevilla to me are just smell that Europa League fever, Jack. You know what they want to do. You know what they want to do.
Right.
They'll finish the third, and then they'll do what they do in the Europa League as they always do. It just, to me, it just feels like that. PSV didn't show enough teeth to be against Arsenal. Very, very, very disappointing to me what they brought there. Lens is probably the team that everybody thinks is going to finish bottom, but there's something about French teams that have the ability to like go away and shock teams. You've seen what they were able to do against Sevilla. So yeah, I got Lens going through a bit of a shock, but let's see.
James, Group C, I think this one kind of writes itself, but let's have a little bit of a reveal here and see how we both did. Yeah, I mean, again, it's kind of chalk, that kind of thing. It kind of reminds me of Group A a little bit. You have this really dominant team, a second team. And James, I'll be honest, Napoli struggled against Braga in that game. I actually had a bet on that game where I needed Napoli to win. So Napoli kind of left that nice and late. Luckily for my bet, I was on the right side of that. But Real Madrid, by far and away, I would argue maybe the best team in the world, certainly up there with Manchester City. And in this competition can never be counted out. Napoli, again, there's serious talent and pedigree there. And we know about Victor Osimhen. We know about Kvaratskhelia. We know about Zielinski. We know about Di Lorenzo. We know about all these guys that are capable of doing things for Napoli. Union Berlin and Braga, just a step below. And again, they might have a couple of tough games, but realistically, James, surely this is the way the table's going to look.
Oh, listen, it's hard to disagree there. Both teams, Napoli and Real Madrid, struggle. The fact that Real Madrid got a 94-minute winner from Jude Bellingham. I think it's a weird year for Madrid because they're playing without a striker, and I think if they were a striker, I would have been even more confident about them. But I'm basing on the fact that it is Real Madrid, Jack. That's why I have been finishing top, because I was a bit iffy about them. But exact same thing with Napoli. I get a little bit worried about them because I feel like on so many times we predicted them to kind of go far in Europe or, scare teams in Europe, and they come off very toothless. Like last season, I was expecting them to be a finalist, Jack. And to see the way they kind of came up short there, Europe might not be their thing, but maybe the fact that coming into this season as champions gives them a little bit more confidence. But Union Berlin were nice, but I can't see this changing any other way.
Neither can I. I think the issue with Napoli is you feel like they have this mentality where they think, oh my God, look how far we've come. We're in the quarterfinals or the semi-finals. Like we're having a title challenge in Serie A and we're in the quarters or semis of a thing. They don't feel that they're capable. I think it's a mental block. They don't feel they're capable of making it to a final and winning the competition. So when they come against a team like a Real Madrid, just as an example, where it's expected that you win these kinds of trophies, they just become a little unstuck. That would just be my kind of pop psychology take. Moving on to Group D, a little bit more of a tricky group to pick here, because I'm not going to lie to you, James, a lot of teams here, I would argue, are kind of similar quality. So first of all, Inter Milan, we both have going through top. Great start to the Serie A season. Red Bull Salzburg, I have going through, and I'm going to kind of go back to the well a little bit for my thing about, James, these guys win week in and week out in the Austrian Bundesliga. Because it's part of the Red Bull network, we know they have really, really nice scouting. And there may be a couple of players who we see throughout the Champions League year who we go, wow, that's a nice, talented player. And then before you know it, 30, 40 million, they're playing in the Premier League the next season. You've got Benfica going through. I have Benfica third, and I've got Real Sociedad bottom. What makes you feel strongly about Benfica going through second?
I feel like if you guys seen what just happened, Benfica obviously losing 2-0 at home to Salzburg, but the fact that they didn't have a man sent off, in the in the 13th minute, the game kind of changes off that. I just go on the fact of, here's a team who understands European football, and you understand it from the point of view that they go through. Like they can think about it, they can trouble teams, and I feel like Portuguese teams have gone through a bit of a renaissance where that to me they're a bit more competitive, in like for me the latter stages of competitions. We've seen a little bit of that from Porto and obviously Benfica a few years ago where they were able to knock out were like they were able to go ahead of Barcelona. So I just going for the fact of the history side of it. RB Salzburg, listen, good there, but Real Sociedad to me is a team that it's something about them. It's something about the
Yep.
players like David Silva, and maybe maybe it's the fact that I know them a little bit more than like Salzburg is why I have them going through, Jack.
Yeah, look, you're probably right. I mean, you touched on all the right points there. The Portuguese league again, James. I think over recent year we've started seeing the Benficas of the world, Sporting Lisbons of the world, Portos of the world, holding out for big money, and we know how good they are at developing young talent. I think if you're an agent or a parent, family member of a young superstar kind of player, do you want to sign for an okay amount of money for a big team to sit on the bench, or do you want to play Champions League football week in and week out in a top five European league against good caliber of opponents, and then get your big move as a starter to one of these top teams where you can earn big wages? So they develop players very, very well. We've seen the likes of like maybe somebody like a Darwin Nunez, Gonzalo Ramos again got his move recently to Paris Saint-Germain as well. So we know all about these guys, and look, they're hard to put down. I just think that Red Bull Salzburg will be able to sneak it. Go ahead,
And
James.
God, I thought I was tripping there, but I forgot. Like my boy Kubo is there. And guys, if if you're a Real Madrid fan, you've seen what Kubo did to you guys on the weekend and how much of a threat, how much of a threat Real Sociedad were altogether against Real Madrid. So like they kind of know how to play against top level teams there. So just they have to me that bit more experience, that bit more class to me in the final third with players like David Silva, Kubo there who can really hurt them. Oh, David
And,
Silva
and
just retired. Sorry, David Silva just retired. Sorry, guys.
But they got Sabel's a nice player, right? They got some nice players dotted around there. And Inter Milan as well. We've got to touch on them real quick. I don't think they look brilliant tonight, but there doesn't seem to be much of a Champions League hangover. We've seen how good they've been in the league, and again, I do think that they will get to somewhat of the latter stages in this competition going forward. James, Group E, kind of an interesting one. There's a team that really stands out, and then again, similar to a lot of these groups, there's not really a huge change here in terms of quality. I would argue between Celtic, Feyenoord, and Lazio. We both have Atletico Madrid going through. I'm taking Feyenoord to go through. James, you're taking Lazio. I'll just kind of defend my point here a little bit. I just think that Feyenoord are kind of a strong Dutch team. I don't know. I feel like they've kind of been they've increased in quality lately. I feel like we're seeing them play well in the Eredivisie a little bit more. Lazio, it's not been a great start to the year. They've lost some seriously talented players over the course of the summer for big money, but I don't know if they've strictly replaced them as well as they want to. Not doing too well in the league. And again, Celtic, it's going to be tricky for them always. James, what's your defense for Lazio?
I just think Lazio just has that bit more quality, and also Jack, the fact that they play to me in a much, much, much tougher league. While let's be honest, like the Eredivisie is still a fantastic league, but in terms of you strength wise, isn't that great. To me, there's reason why the one team that you always associate with going through is Ajax, and for the last few years, Jack, they've struggled in that. And I'm not sure they've had a team who've qualified for the round of 16 for I'm thinking about it for a while since Ajax there. And Lazio, granted, been toothless in Europe. Let's call a spade a spade. But overall, I just think that they have that little bit more quality there. But also, Jack, I'm a little bit worried about Atletico Madrid because
Yeah,
for as good as they've been historically for the past 10 years or so, the past few years in Europe hasn't been quite great. And I feel like they kind of, to me, they've kind of lost connection with their European pedigree in a way. And Jack, I will not be surprised, yeah? I will not be surprised if they possibly don't qualify for the knockout stage. Granted, this group is there for them to take
of
advantage of
course.
because let's be honest, it isn't that strong. But Atletico Madrid doesn't pack the same punch as what it used to 3, 4, 5 years ago.
Well, James, it feels like, and again, a La Liga or an Atletico Madrid fan is more than welcome to correct me. I actually welcome it. I don't watch La Liga week in, week out. But James, it feels like the same song on repeat over and over again. I like Diego Simeone. He's been fantastic. I like what they've been, some of the moments and some of the successes they've had over recent years. But it's the same old thing. I look at the crosstown rivals, a team like Real Madrid. Real Madrid are always fantastic, but they're fantastic in different ways, and they mold and they develop to the time, and their recruitment will change, and their play style will change, and their manager will change as well. And you always feel like you're getting a slightly different flavor out of Real Madrid. Now they're kind of worlds apart in terms of popularity and success and whatnot, but Atletico Madrid, it's just the same thing over and over again. And I'm with you. If I'm a Feyenoord, Lazio, Celtic, I'm looking at this going, right, we know what this game's going to be. They're kind of easy to prepare for, and there's a lot of film and a lot of data showing what they do, and you can usually play against them quite well. So I don't think you're crazy for saying that at all. This group in particular, you kind of just throw a dart and just see what happens. James, here's the real group. Here's where the fun starts. I wish these teams had been spread out a little more evenly, but it's kind of fun to have them all together. Let's see how we've done. Okay, again, we've both got PSG going through top. I've gone for Newcastle United. I do think in their debut they'll be able to do it. Milan in third, Dortmund bottom. James has Newcastle bottom, Milan in second. James, do you just want to give your pitch for why you think Milan will go through, but why you think Newcastle United will go bottom?
Call it Premier League hype, Jack. It's Premier League. Listen, I remember when Manchester City won the Premier League for the first time in 2012. They came. No. I mean, they even qualified for the Champions League with all this money. Jack, they finished bottom of their group. Just because you're great in the Premier League, that doesn't mean that it will always translate to the Champions League. They don't care what you did. Yeah, granted, Premier League teams do. When you come to Europe, who are you? What have you done for me lately? And a team who's coming there, granted, they come in there with a bit of an unknown, and like you've seen teams come out of nowhere and like do stuff, but it's still a certain, a big club in a way. So people will think about it. People will get up for that, but I don't think AC Milan are scared of um Newcastle at all. They should have, to me, won the game at the San Siro, but they didn't. And secondly, I don't think that Newcastle had the ambition to go all the way. And Jack, what I mean by that is that Newcastle struggle in big games. You've seen it this season. Liverpool, yeah, 1-0 up, cruising, let it go. City, toothless. They didn't put that foot forward. Brighton, Jack, they were beating pillar to post. And every time that they've come up, so every time that they've had a big question asked of them, they couldn't answer. Now they have six big questions going to be asked of them? I don't think that they can answer. So I have them finishing bottom.
My defense is, James, I think they're actually better suited to European knockout football than they are to Premier League football. That would just be my guess. I think these are big, physical, strong, athletic players, again, who can defend first and then take opportunities on breaks. We know all about modern football. It's all about transition, all about counter press and making the most of when people aren't set in their defensive setups, transition setups, or attacking setups. That's where the magic happens with Callum Wilson, with Alexander Isak, with Harvey Barnes, with these kinds of guys that you've now got buzzing in and around this Newcastle team on the break, the likes of Sandro Tonali, Bruno Guimaraes, to be able to find them, and then that defensive stoutness that they're going to have. I think they're going to be in every single game, and when some of these teams are applying serious pressure, they'll be able to break on them and do some damage. I don't feel super confident about this. The only team I felt really confident about was Dortmund finishing bottom, but Milan, Newcastle, you could have flipped a coin. I agree with you with the pedigree and all that kind of stuff. And James, Rafael Leao, Theo Hernandez, that left-hand side is still absolutely devastating, don't get me wrong. And that guy, man, he's special and he can break some hearts, but I just think Newcastle defensively strong enough and they'll take enough chances to be able to get through.
That moment that like he went past a bunch of Newcastle players and tried to backheel there for a moment there, it reminded me of the Wolfsburg player Graffiti when he scored the goal in 2009. But again, Jack, he's devastating. He's devastating. And one thing I want to bring it up there, man, I'm bored of Borussia Dortmund, Jack. I've remember before. I think they used to be one of the most likable teams.
Similar to Atletico Madrid.
Yeah,
like in a way.
But I feel like on Madrid, you were like, oh, look at these guys, a bunch of school, like just the way they play, very, very dirty. Well, Borussia Dortmund, you grew up with them with the Klopp style, heavy metal football, and people love the Marco Royces and all that. Now it's like, listen, you guys just bore me, especially what they did last year, bottling it. Yeah, I don't really care as much of like
No.
Borussia Dortmund of what I used to, and plus they always lose their best players, and I think that's to be the biggest thing, you know.
That's the thing I think that kills you in the end. To me, it's just a team that reeks of like no ambition. And again, geez, some Dortmund fans may not like me saying that, but I'm just saying, if you keep selling your best players to your rival, and again, James, a lot of the time these aren't for big fees. If Liverpool were to, sorry, if Man City were to buy Mo Salah a couple of years ago, we'd be talking 300 million plus. Whereas if that was Dortmund selling to Bayern Munich, it would probably be like 55 million euros. And then you're like, right, what are you doing? Right. So again, little bit of and I think last year has killed them, James. Mentally, I think that's absolutely killed them. What they've lost
Yeah.
there is insane. Okay, that was Group F. We'll get to Group G here. Again, the Manchester City group rubbing their hands together. They could probably play their backups and get through here as expected, James. Two best teams going through one and two, young boys, and then I'm not going to lie to you, a team I've never heard of, and I'm not even going to try and pronounce bottom. You do have them in third. Is that more of a shock factor?
I was really impressed with them yesterday, and how I will say how they were able to keep Man City back, because Man City were like brilliant, but when they did break Jack, they showed a level of ambition that I look at young boys, I'm not sure that they have in comparison to them. So that's why I just have them finishing just ahead there. Listen, the top two,
They're
easy,
clear, aren't they? I
easy,
mean,
easy.
Man City again may well be the best team in the world, and Leipzig, again, like I talked about with RB's Red Bull Salzburg, it's the scouting network, it's the development pathway. We know for a fact that there's, even if they lose Nkunku and these kinds of guys, at some point we're going to hear a name at some point this year who's going to go, wow, he's having an outstanding season, and then he's linked to a lot of top teams for lots and lots of money. That's what they do. That's Group G in the books, James. Final group, Group H. Kind of an interesting one because I think there's one team that we know won't make it, and one team I think will definitely make it, and then two interesting ones here. Let's see what we've gone for. We've both kind of taken chalk on that. You want to kind of explain away your group in here?
Um, Barcelona. They, to be fair, I was in the mood thinking, "Oof, should I put Barcelona, third, because they really badly need to qualify. Jack, the last few years have been really disappointing. They need to finish top so they can hopefully avoid a Bayern Munich in the round of 16. So I have them finish top there. It was between Porto and Shakhtar Donetsk, and I just had the fact of what's going on, with Shakhtar over the past few, just overall with the country is quite tough, and I just think Porto, again, we spoke about these Portuguese teams having a bit of renaissance in the Champions League lately. I think that they have a little bit more quality than Shakhtar, and we got the whipping boys there that I think everybody's going to be looking to collect at least a minimum of 6 points from.
Yeah, look, I'm totally with you there. And James, I think Barcelona, the biggest thing is, the
Is
contrast
that,
from
how,
last
how do
year.
you pronounce it? Is it Antwerp?
Antwerp, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I think I've seen a bunch of stuff on Twitter comparing the whole defensive line compared to the defensive line now and how different it is and all that kind of stuff. So again, I think Barcelona seem to be in a nice spot. And James, also, they're not getting a lot of love and they're not getting a lot of respect. And I think that the moment you start doubting a team the stature of Barcelona, if they hit some good form, then that can really change things. So if they make the knockout, they get a nice tie, get some confidence, play well in La Liga, we could be talking about Barcelona being back. Again, maybe a conversation for another day with Timmy. Guys, let us know what you think is going to happen in these group stages. We've gotten through a few games here, so James and I've cheated a little bit, but I still think there's enough left to still be decided in these groups. And I'll
It's
be
only
honest,
one round, to be fair. It's only one round, guys. Oh,
and I will
apologies.
say, I picked my team. I picked my teams here prior to Wednesday's games. Obviously, I knew Tuesday's games, but prior to these games. And again, James has just said it. There's still a lot of football to play. A lot of football to play. Like, share, and subscribe if you like what you've seen. James, anything else from you, mate?
Guys, comment down below. We want to get all your predictions. Who is going to go through? And any ones you see here that you question, let us know. Comment down below, guys. This is Box to Box Football. Like, share, and subscribe. And we'll see you next time.